Like chest hair was totally a thing. It was like very normal and it
Hmm.
was everywhere. And I don't know exactly what happened, but it makes me wonder what happened to all the people that had it. Is everyone shaving or is everyone just hiding it? Like what's happening here?
My name is Ryan, and welcome to my channel, where I do things that I think are interesting. For this interview, I am joined by a very special guest, someone I've had the privilege of knowing since kindergarten. This person is not just a longtime friend, but also an incredibly talented individual. He's an experienced program manager and developer with an impressive background in cutting edge fields like augmented reality, biomedical innovations, and automated self driving technologies. His professional journey through these dynamic industries has given him a unique perspective on technology and its interaction with everyday life. But that's not why he's here. Today, we're going to explore a different side of personal identity and societal norms, living with chest hair. In this conversation, we aim to shed light on what it's like to have chest hair and how something as natural as body hair can shape one's self image and influence interactions in unsuspecting ways. So let's get started and hear from our guest in hopes of understanding and appreciating this aspect of physical identity that is often overlooked. Please welcome Yashar Bahman. Today, we're talking about something that a lot of people deal with. Me, personally, I don't deal with this at all. But people I know, people you know, people that we know deal with this. And it's a very common thing. Chest hair.
Hmm. It's a big deal. It's omnipresent.
When was the first time you noticed you had some chest hair? Like, when did that start to develop?
Oh gosh, probably when I was 12 or 13. It also for sure started like in the middle of my chest and around my nipples and kind of just fleshed in from there
Okay.
and just spread out like a wildfire.
Now, do you remember when you started to develop your hair, your chest hair, how you felt when you first saw it?
Oh, for sure. I think for me it's probably different than for a lot of people. Actually, I don't know. Actually, I can't say that for sure. All I know is that I've always been a very hairy individual. You've known me for my entire life. I've always been a very hairy individual. When you're a very hairy individual around a lot of not hairy individuals, it garners a lot of attention. And often it's like, whoa, you're so hairy, or ew, you're so hairy, or why are you so hairy? And so it's very much like a just cover it up and move on kind of thing.
Cover it up.
Oh yeah. Just don't show anyone and just go and also, you're like in your teens, you're nervous about everything. You don't know what the hell's going on in the world. So you cover it up and you move on. That was kind of like the MO for a very long time.
Interesting. I mean, obviously, we went to school together from elementary to middle school. And about that time, right? Middle school would be where you're starting to develop this hair. I had no idea that you felt so, what sounds like self conscious about the hair growth.
Oh, interesting. You didn't? Wow.
I don't think
That's
so.
awesome. I love to hear that because I it's one of those things where you're like, I'm so self-conscious about this, but I don't want to seem self-conscious about it. I want to seem like I don't care or I have it under control or I'm happy about it or whatever. I was always very self-conscious about my general hair output as a human. I would always wear shorts.
Hmm.
This is actually kind of a sad story.
Oh,
I
man.
used to always wear shorts.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Uh, I used to always wear shorts every single day, even if it was cold. And it was like Los Angeles, so it was never really that cold, but it was Los Angeles cold. And then one day, it was maybe like a few times in a row in a week or two that like somebody made fun of my leg hair. And so I switched to so then I didn't switch. I was like, I still love shorts. I'm not gonna not wear shorts. But I like stole my dad's razor and I shaved my legs. And I was like, sweet, now no one's gonna make fun of my leg hair. And then whoever made fun of my leg hair originally was like, "Did you shave your legs? What's wrong with you?" And so I was like, "Fuck,
Can't win.
I've been had." So I switched to wearing pants pretty much exclusively for like the next 6 years.
Did this also occur in middle school?
This was way before middle school. This is like fourth grade.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but in middle school, everyone wore shorts, but I wore sweatpants instead in gym class. for the exact same reason because I was like, I don't want to be made fun of for my hairy legs.
No
So
way. Another thing that like
yeah,
I must have completely missed. I don't recall that. If someone was to ask me, what did Yashar wear during gym class? I'd be like, oh, gym clothes, obviously, right?
yeah. It's funny because it was also again Los Angeles, never cold, but often very hot. So it also had the effect of like you wear sweatpants on a hot day, everyone's like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" Kind of, I was like, "Well, I'll take sweatpants over whatever the alternative is," because again, middle schooler logic, you don't know anything.
Dude, kids are
Yeah.
brutal.
Kids are brutal and also dumb, like I had no perspective on life to know that like this doesn't matter at all. But, in that moment you're like this is something I'm deeply concerned about.
Well, let's step away from the trauma for a bit and come back to more your adult life. So, what type of routines do you do with your chest hair as far as grooming? Is there any special type of grooming that you do for the hair?
Yeah, wow, great question. So, yes, when you have the degree of chest hair that I do, you sort of have you have two options. This is true for anyone, really. You have the option of shaving it or just not shaving it. Shaving it is not an option for me. I've done it every once in a while. It's not like shaving a beard where it's like, oh, it will end here. It's kind of like there is really no end. It's like everything just sort of blends together. So it's like just deciding on where to like the edges are is just a huge pain in the ass.
I
And then
don't understand.
maintaining,
May you explain a little further?
okay, so like from my shoulder down to my toe, there's like not like a single centimeter that exists that has no hair.
Got it. Okay.
So like you'd have to like decide like, oh well, I guess I mean it's not even really my shoulder. It's like from here. Like it's like above my shoulder. You would have to just decide be like, you know what, this is where I'm gonna draw the line. And it's really difficult to make that line look natural. So
You need to put a fade then, like you do the side of your
oh
head, you get a fade.
exactly. Exactly. You'd have to do a fade.
You need to do a fade on
Like
your shoulders.
you'd have to do a fade and then you'd have to get someone to help you out. So yeah, that's not an option. And then the other thing is like I don't you've not it's hard to explain this sensation, um, but there's a period of time when you like between shaving and your hair growing out where the hair grows out just long enough that it like pokes back into your skin, like the tip that's growing out will like poke back into your skin. And it's like very, very itchy and uncomfortable. But it doesn't last super long because once it grows a little bit longer, like if it's shorter, it's not long enough to poke back. And if it's longer, then you have a bunch of other hair around it that prevents it from poking back.
Speak for yourself. I grow hair slowly, so it's there for a while.
So you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So imagine that, but like all over your chest. It's
Oh.
incredibly uncomfortable. And not only is it uncomfortable, but like, did you know this? You get some like discoloration when you shave and then it goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes back because your skin is so irritated from like just being stabbed constantly from like, because also you're wearing like a t-shirt. So it's also getting like pressed on a lot. So it's incredibly uncomfortable and itchy and just annoying. So there's like dudes who shave their chest like pretty regularly and they have very like thick chest hair, and I just don't understand how they do that. It seems like a nightmare.
The amount of time and effort to just keep that up, like you're saying, to avoid being stabbed by your own body.
Yeah, yeah, you either got to keep it up always, which terrible, or you got to constantly go through that cycle and just be okay with it. So props to whoever deals with that.
Yeah, kudos to those guys. You're the true
Yeah.
heroes.
Yeah, so shaving is not really an option for me.
Out.
But yeah, out, gone, dead. So you gotta like do the same thing. It's just a bunch of hair, just like you would have anywhere else on your body. You gotta shampoo it or at least use soap and do that as often as you do with your hair or your beard or anywhere else that you have enough hair that you care about it not being oily.
Nice. Any specific products or tools that you use?
I think I'm very lucky as a person because I don't need to take care of my skin that much. My skin is very self-sufficient. I just use like some regular body wash on my face and my beard, and it's fine.
Oh yeah, where some other people will just break out if they use just any regular soap or whatever on their face, like they need special products and whatnot. I think that's what you're getting at, right?
Yeah, and if you talk to a lot of people that have beards and that maintain beards, having a beard is like it seems like it's the for a lot of people like it has this image of like it's a masculine thing. It's very manly. But if you talk to a lot of men who have beards and that they care about their beards, a lot what you'll find is that it seems like they spend the most time grooming their beard than anything else. Where it's like this image of a beard is like, oh, you're just like this lumberjack who doesn't care about anything, and you're like are out in the wilderness, and that's all you need. When in reality, everyone's like, oh, I have all this beard oil, and I have this beard shampoo, and this beard conditioner, and I have a beard comb, and like all of this stuff. Fortunately, like I don't know, I'm lucky and I don't have to do any of that. I just use
Damn,
some like
Yash,
shampoo and it's fine.
lifting the lid on
uh,
the beard culture over here.
oh, it's so true. It's so true. Uh, it's not even like it's like one of those things where well, I was gonna say maybe it doesn't even feel like a secret because every time I talk to someone about it, I'm like, oh, what's your beard care routine? Just because I'm curious. They always just gush about like all the things that they do. And so I was gonna say it's not a secret, but it might just be because I also have a beard. And so they're just like, oh, this guy gets it.
Is there any other type of discomforts that you get in different climates? Not just because of shaving, but because you have the chest hair. Like, is it different when it's cold, when it's hot?
Oh my God. Okay, I can tell you one thing that I think this is a really silly. This is really silly, but like this is a theory that I have for myself, but I have incredibly sensitive nipples, like very, very sensitive nipples. It's the point
Okay.
where like if I'm like it's like a huge problem when I'm like doing long distance running or I'm doing like long distance biking. Like I have to tape my nipples always, or I have to like run without a shirt, or if I'm even wearing like a cycling jersey, you know how they're like overalls.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take like a rubber band or something and tie them like this so that they won't even get close to like touching my nipples even a little bit. And so my theory for why this is because I have just like a layer of chest hair that is preventing my nipples from ever being touched by anything. Like there's always like a space between my nipples and my shirt. And when you have a very sweaty shirt or you're like inducing a lot of friction, that just kind of goes away. And so I think because of that, I have very sensitive nipples and I cannot like run long distances without doing something about it.
That is a
It's
great
crippling. It's
theory.
terrible.
I think this needs to be tested. We need to take this to researchers at some colleges and have them run this, man.
I
This is a
think
good
so
one.
too. I think there's definitely a paper to be published here about sensitivity and deprivation of normal interactions to that area due to excessive hairiness.
That is wild.
We could publish a dissertation there.
I'm gonna believe that there's a complete correlation with hairiness around the nipple and your sensitivity of nipples. I don't need to
I
hear
would,
anymore.
yeah, we don't have to look into that. I wouldn't want to do that research.
Any other
Okay,
wild theories about the discomfort you might feel or irritation because of chest hair?
I joke around that like I probably don't get cold because of this, but like I think that's more of a joke than anything. Like it's not enough to actually do anything useful. It's just there.
You do tend to wear less sweaters and jackets in cold weathers compared to myself and our friends, though. So that
That's true. Maybe there is something to it. I mean, it's not zero, I guess. I think one thing that's not really like a discomfort or irritation per se is that I feel like my whole body is just pretty desensitized to having your hair be pulled. People have talked about like, oh, getting your hair pulled somewhere in your body, like your beard hair pulled, or your head hair, or your leg hair, arm hair, whatever. And they've talked about it like hurting, and I'm like that. I it doesn't bother me that much. Like I could feel it. It doesn't. It's not super comfortable, but it's kind of just run of the mill.
you just brush it off and move on.
Yeah, it doesn't really affect me too much because I think just because like you do any single thing with a ton of chest hair or hair all over your body, and your hair is going to be pulled in some way. So it's like it's either you get desensitized to it or you're constantly in pain.
I definitely stop what I'm doing and just tend to my little injury every time I have a hair pulled out of me. I'm a baby, but that's just me.
Yeah, of course. I could tell. I can tell you do that.
It's on my face, you could read
Yeah.
it. How do people generally react to your chest hair now? Like when it's visible?
It's 100% shock and awe every single time.
Really?
Actually, oh yeah. Well, there's so many reactions actually. Here's my favorite anecdote. I've been doing, the past few years I've been doing more and more long distance running, and when it's not raining in Seattle, I'll wear just no shirt. I've noticed that when people see me when I'm running, their eyes just go like directly to my chest every single time. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this must be what it feels like to have cleavage." Just trying to do your thing and then everyone's just staring at your chest. This is like I get just a little bit of slice of life of like what it's like.
Eyes are up here, up here.
Yeah, and I'm like, my eyes are up here, lady or man. It doesn't even matter who it is, or like child. It's often child. Oh, there's so many times where I run by a child and they'll like say something like, "Oh, that man was hairy," or like, "What was wrong with that guy?" But like when I'm on a run is like the best time to experience these kinds of funny situations.
It sounds like
Uh,
people are generally seeing it as a spectacle. They're in awe almost.
yeah, they're just like, "Oh my goodness, wow, that is incredible. I didn't know this was possible." But which is so funny because there's like if you go back and watch like a video from the 90s, like chest hair was totally a thing. It was like very normal and
Hmm.
it was everywhere. And I don't know exactly what happened, but it makes me wonder what happened to all the people that had it. Is everyone shaving or is everyone just hiding it? Like what's happening here? Because I feel like there's very few people that openly have chest hair nowadays.
Yeah. So with that said,
Sorry, I have to go back one question and tell
sure.
you a funny story. I've gotten like a number of massages over the past few years. This is normally like towards the end of the massage, they're like, oh, flip over, like let me like massage your neck and like sometimes your head, and then like move on.
Hmm.
Whenever this happens, there there's like a 50% chance that they'll just like be like, oh, and then they'll just like rub their hand on my chest and be like, you're so hairy. Sometimes whoever's doing this will be like, won't speak English super well. But when I was in Japan, the funniest thing happened where the person who was giving me a massage was like, "Wow, you're so hairy," and I was like, "Haha, yeah." And they were like Santa Claus," and I was like, "What?"
Santa Claus is
And they
hairy?
could tell that I was like confused, and they saw the look on my face, and they were like, "Oh no, no, like young Santa Claus," and I was like, "That wasn't the thing that I was concerned about." But like I wonder if Santa Claus has a hairy chest in Japan. I have no idea.
Oh no, this man is upset that I called him old. I'm sorry, sir. No,
Yeah,
you're young Santa
yeah.
Claus.
Young Santa Claus. Oh gosh, that was so funny.
If anyone is from Japan and listening to this, please leave a comment. Let us know if Santa Claus is known to have a hairy chest.
Yeah. I or if it's just the beard that he has, then there's just an assumption that it just goes on. It just goes on throughout his whole body.
Yeah, maybe that's a question for people listening. Does Santa Claus have a hairy chest? Yes or no? Let us know. Back to your chest hair.
Back to the chest hair.
Any stereotypes or misconceptions that you come across when it comes to your chest hair?
Whoa.
Like, do people think you chop wood? I guess that's more of a beard thing.
I think the response is always something to that effect. It's always like shock and awe, or like some comment about being manly, or why don't you shave it? Those are similar, I guess, to the one that you had about the beard, where it's like, oh, why don't you just shave it?
Hmm.
Which is a very funny comment. It's kind of just like it's more of a recommendation than it is a comment. But um, yeah, there's always comments about like oh, manliness. It's like, oh, dang, like I don't want to mess with you, or like just like a nervous reaction of just like, oh, that's unusual. Let me just ask a bunch of questions to fill the void, and I always entertain it. If what I should do is ask them some weird questions back. If someone's like, oh my gosh, chest hair, like, how do you feel when you have that? Like, do people react weirdly to you? And I'll be like, no, do people react weirdly to your whatever you got going on there? I'm curious about that.
To your
I should really just turn it
bareness?
around.
Are you
Like,
embarrassed that there's nothing there?
yeah. But no, that's not who I am, I think. I would rather just like be nice to them and just answer their questions, and and then we can move on.
I'm glad to hear
Um,
that. You're
yeah,
creating a chest hair friendly environment, just one person at a time.
yeah, yeah. We're not bad guys, you know. It's not. We didn't choose to live like this. This wasn't our choice.
The chest hair lifestyle chose them. When it came to dating, how did the chest hair impact your dating experiences?
Wow, I have a few answers to this.
I love it. I have a few minutes of time and more.
The first thing is that I'm still self-conscious about it. Like the first time I'll like take off my shirt in front of someone, I'll be like very nervous because I'm like, they don't know what they're in for. Like they've probably never experienced this. And usually they haven't experienced it. Actually, 100% of the time they've never experienced anything like that. And there's probably like a high percentage chance, like a 50% chance that they didn't know that I had a very hairy chest
Hmm.
or just was hairy in general. There's a few things that or one of the things that I have done is like I have some pictures of me online that you can find if you've done like any basic level of research on me,
It sounds
where
like you
you
make it
can
like an
see that
Easter egg hunt, though. Like, it's not on my dating profile, but if you do some snooping, you're going to find these photos and then you're going to talk to a
exactly,
guy named Jack.
exactly. It's a brutal world out there in the dating environment. If I just like had full on chest hair as my profile picture, it doesn't work super well.
Oh, so
And
you've done this, though. That's what it sounds
oh, I
like.
mean, we could talk. I could tell you all about like the A/B testing I've done with my profiles.
I think that's a
I'm sure
totally
I've told you all
different,
about
that
this.
is a totally
Yeah,
different talk and interview. But
yeah,
taking from that, just a little snippet, you did see a difference on your connections solely based on whether chest hair was there or not.
yeah, definitely. So I was like, well, I feel like I'm being dishonest if I hide this or like don't put it super forward. But like also, it's kind of like a douchey move to have like a shirtless picture in your profile anyway.
100%.
And it's not like I have a six pack or you could see it anyway. So like the hair would cover it up, so it doesn't really matter.
That is the
Uh,
only reason, ladies, why he does not have a six pack. It doesn't matter. You never see it. He actually might have one. He probably does have one.
Okay, so there have been like a few times in my life where I have like been exercising a lot and I've like shaved my chest just like randomly for like I used to do it every once in a while. And then I was like, "Oh, damn, I have some definition. Like where'd that come from?" And then I was like, I'd feel really good about myself and then the pain would come from just like the shaved chest and then I'd be like, "This isn't worth it. Not worth it."
You feel good? How about now?
So, so I was like, okay, I don't want to have my potential matches be like significantly squandered by this, but
Hmm.
I also don't want it to like feel like I'm hiding something, and I also don't want to get to the point where I'm like taking my shirt off and then being like, this is a complete surprise to you, and you had no idea and like had no expectations set. So there are some pictures of me online where it's like you can see that I have chest hair, and it's not like super obvious, but like if you find them, like you can find them pretty easily, and then be like, oh hey, like he's got chest hair, and then move on from there. So that's one thing that I did somewhat strategically to just
Hmm.
make sure that it wouldn't be a surprise, but it also isn't going to be like a setback or a holdback.
A very delicate game.
It is a very delicate game, but one of the things that I jokingly said once to a girlfriend, and like understandably so, like almost every girl who sees it is always like, "What? That's weird. Like, why don't you shave it?" My response was one time, it was just like off the cuff. I was like, "Don't worry. One day, like you'll really like it, and that's how I know you'll love me."
Wow.
And I said that once, but it actually is like somehow been proven to be true. Like if you ask Jess, she'd be like, "Yeah, you said that to me," and I was like, "That's never gonna happen." But
Wow.
but now I love it, and I would hate if you shaved. And I'm like, "All right, great,
That is awesome. Yeah,
fantastic."
that is awesome. How have other partners commented on your chest hair?
It's funny because like I've not had a ton of partners. Most of my partners have been long term,
Hmm.
as you know. So my first partner was like we started dating before I had it or when I barely had it. So it was kind of a gradual progression for her. So she didn't really have much to say. She just experienced it as I did. as it was emerging. My second partner also knew me in high school, so she knew what she was getting herself into. I would occasionally like get into this habit that you can develop, which is like when you get nervous, you pull your hair. At some point, like I started doing this, and she was like super against it. She was like, "Stop pulling out your hair." It was not like the hair on my head or face or anything. It would just be like, I don't know. I'd be like sitting there like studying, and I'd just like pull my chest hair, and she'd be like, "Don't do that. Like, stop pulling that out. Like, I like that.
I love
Don't get rid
every
of it." And I was
single
like, "I'm not."
follicle. Keep them.
Yeah, I was like, "I'm not gonna go chest bald from this." But all right. Um,
Have you seen the amount here? I could lose a few.
yeah,
It's fine.
yeah. Like this is we got plenty to go around. I could share with everybody on this floor in our building, and they will all have multiplied their chest hair by 10x. So we're fine. I guess the third long-term relationship I had, she was shocked the first couple times. That's all. That's always what it's been. It's always been ever since then. After the first two girls, it's always been shock, and then eventually they're like, "I like it," and don't shave it. And yeah, that's just how it's always been. And I think this is more to do with just the way humans work than the chest hair itself. I think
Hmm.
it's like if you meet someone and then you fall in love with them and like either someone that you really enjoy and then they fundamentally change something that would like you knew about them, you're going to be like kind of bummed for a little bit. You could look this up. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but like so many people have experienced like, oh, when they were younger, their like dad shaved their beard and they cried and cried and cried. I remember being like, oh, my dad is gone. Like this is like a common thing that happens to kids. It's the same kind of thing where it's like, oh, well, this is how I knew you, and now you're different, and it's uncomfortable.
I've definitely seen reaction videos of dads who like yeah shave their beard or their mustache and then go to their
Yeah,
child and their child is essentially scared and
yeah,
traumatized.
totally. Yeah, exactly. They're like the person that I've loved is gone. Oh yeah, I remember my dad shaved his beard, and my he showed my sister and I. We were like, he was like trying to be all like, hey, look at this, and our reaction was just instant tears, just
Oh
crying and like
no.
terror. And I'm sure it happens to everyone, right? It's like everyone that's ever had a parent that's done that. It's like, oh shit, what happened to my what
Wow.
happened to my parent?
Have you ever felt pressured though to modify or groom the chest hair? And this is in the context of once again relationships, dating.
Hmm. Dating, it's one of those things where the answer is no.
Good. I think that's
But
really good to hear. But oh, you have a
yeah,
but. Oh, let's hear it.
it's so no, none of my partners have ever pressured me. Like I think once or twice, like someone I had a partner ask me to shave once. They're like, you should just try it, and I was like, okay. And then I think they immediately see they're like, oh, that looks really good, and then like immediately see like, oh, that doesn't last more than 24 hours, and then it's just painful, and then the next shaving of it is going to be way more complicated also, and it took forever the first time, and okay, yeah, this isn't worth it. Like it, there's like a process of like you go through that once, and then you're like, oh, actually, this is no good. Don't do that. If there ever has been pressure, it was always just like a let's just try it and see what happens, and then it's like no, that's not worth it. And that's the same way that I feel. I'm like, hey, if I shave my chest, I'm sure that things would be a lot easier. There'd be like a lot less shock in some cases.
Hmm.
But like that's not really an option. It's like not a viable thing to do. Like I can't do that every single day.
Right.
It would just take too long. And
That's all you'd be doing.
that's all I'd be doing, yeah.
Sure. What do you do for
And
work?
I
I just
just
shave my
constantly
chest.
be like bleeding from everywhere.
Oh
So
man.
like from like accidentally nicking something and then it would just be terrible. So yeah, I don't feel pressure because I'm like I can't. I can't do that. It's not an option. We're gonna have to find another way.
Have you ever shaved it into like a shape, like made a heart out of your chest?
Oh yeah, of course. Like every time every time, I mean, every time I've shaved, actually, I'll say this. Every time I shave my beard, like completely down, if I forget to do something silly on the way shaving it down, I feel regret. Like, you got to do something silly on the way down to just be like, oh, look at how funny I look with just like I shaved like every other inch, like, or like, look how funny I look if I just have like a little Mario mustache or some like sweet handlebars. Like, you gotta do something. And same thing with the chest. It's like you gotta shave something in.
You cannot be the only one. Those, and once again, if you're listening and you have chest hair, please let us know what shapes you've shaved into your chest.
Absolutely important to know. I think the only things that I've done though are like circle, which is not that interesting, and uh and like happy face, like with the two eyes. No, I tried to shave some letters in
Happy
once.
face, does that mean the eyes were the hair or you shaved out the eyes and the smile?
Oh, oh no, the eyes with the hair.
Okay.
It's yeah. Although what you're describing would be a lot easier.
I mean,
I should have done that.
yeah,
But
you would have a lot less hair growing back and poking you.
yeah. Oh, I mean it all goes away at the end. It's I never shaved it into a shape and left it. That's never
Okay.
happened.
Oh, you never left
Uh
it. Oh, that's
yeah, no, it's always just on the way down. It's like, oh, I'm getting rid of it. Look at this funny thing, and then it lasts 20 minutes and then it's gone. Oh, I've never shaved something weird and left it.
now that's what I'm
That would
waiting
be a
for.
cool
I'm
one.
waiting for you to put some type of symbol on your chest, like the Superman sign, just shaven, and then you go out and go for a run.
I did, speaking of run, I did get like I do get a lot of there's like certain cases where I'll get lots of compliments on my chest hair, and they mostly happen in places like where I live in Capitol Hill, and it's mostly from like a very specific kind of man who's like very, very buff and very friendly, and like they're like, "Oh, I love your chest hair. You look great." And I'm like, and I don't know what it is about that guy, but like this one dude, I was when I ran this last half marathon, he was just like completely jacked. He was bald, but he had this like giant beard. We kept like running past each other
Hmm.
and didn't really say anything because you're running.
Yeah.
At the end of it, he came up and gave me a big hug and was like, "You're a badass motherfucker." And I was like, "Dude, I am half your size and half your weight and half your body fat percentage. I don't know what you're talking about, but okay." Like, I have no idea what I did to stick out for you, but thank you. And now he follows me on Strava and like likes my stuff, and he's like a very nice guy. But
It's got to be the chest hair.
there's no other reason. There's nothing else that I did. I like was not particularly nice. Like I was not mean. I didn't do anything interesting. I just was nearby him occasionally.
Yeah, you just had to exist. That's what you did, and
Yeah,
it was perfect. It's what he needed. It's what you needed.
yeah.
It resulted in a positive relationship. How do you think the portrayal of chest hair in our media, or the lack thereof, has affected our societal attitudes towards chest hair?
Ooh, people are kind of scared of it. If anything, they're kind of like scared, as in like not like scared like oh you're gonna like kill me. Maybe scared isn't the right word.
Hesitant?
People are hesitant. Yeah, they've just not experienced it. Like they have had such little exposure to it where they're like, that's not a thing that I've seen on a person. It's almost as if like people are seeing an extra finger. They're like trying to comprehend like how did this happen? They don't really understand it. At least that's the look that people seem to give me when I
Mm-hmm.
have no shirt on and I walk around. And it's super common. Like if I am in a beach area and I have no shirt on and I buy something, like 100% there's a comment. Everyone's like, "Oh, you're very manly,"
Once again, going
or
back
something like that.
just
Yeah,
to manliness and the manliness
yeah,
being associated with that chest hair.
yeah. Or like, "I like your chest hair," or something. They'll say something, but it's mostly like a nervous comment. It's just like I see that and I have to say something about it. I don't want to say something mean, and they just like blurt something out. That's and it's often nice, which I think is a nice thing. Even though I know that like it was more of just they needed to say something
Mm-hmm.
because they just like had to address this like thing that they're not used to. I appreciate that they're like, oh, let's gravitate towards the nice thing. That's like 90% of the time, 80% of the time, that's what happens. Just based on the level of like nervousness on a lot of people's reactions, I just don't think people are like used to experiencing or seeing that. So I guess that would be the impact.
So we need more chest hair on TV and movies so people aren't so hesitant and scared when they see,
More representation.
yeah, more representation of chest hair on the big screen.
It used to exist. Like there used to be a bunch of people with chest hair, but I don't know anyone. Like I know very few people that shave their chest.
Hmm.
I think I know one. I think we maybe have one mutual friend who does it regularly. But like I just wonder like where all these men have gone. Whether it's like there has something actually changed in the past like 30 years where it's like it's not happening anymore and we're just like on the cusp of this societal change. Or if there's just like a lot of people who are just like really ashamed and just like constantly shaving their chest. I have no idea.
I
But
think
I
chest
hope
hair
it's
is also a part of fashion, and a lot of fashion tends to cycle. We might see a
yeah.
resurgence. Who knows?
That's true. If anything is happening, like I feel like the latest generation, I feel like our generation was all about like clean and like cut, and I feel like that is not the truth anymore. Like that's not like the cool thing anymore. Now there's like, lots of like baggy, like loose fitting clothes, lots of like fashion that's not necessarily centered around like
The clean cut look that we
clean
grew up
cut
with.
look, lots of like symmetry. There's like a lot of asymmetry involved nowadays.
Hmm.
Chest hair is like absolutely in the direction of like asymmetry chaos rather than like clean and organized. So like if anything, we're heading in the direction where it could be back into fashion. Um,
Chest hair is chaos. I love that. When it comes to cultural differences in the perception of chest hair, what are you aware of and what have you seen? You might want to give people a little bit of background, like who you are and why I find this very intriguing to ask.
I guess I haven't really stated my name either. My name is Yashar. I was born in the United States, but both of my parents are born and raised in Iran. I've done an ancestry.com test and it was very disappointing because it came back and said 99% from Iran, 1% I don't know. And so I'm like through and through from the Middle East. People from Iran often are more likely to have chest hair. I'll say that.
Hmm.
That being said, there's a spectrum, and for Iranians, I am also super high on the spectrum of of having chest hair. I am like 99th percentile any way you slice it. So like,
Oh man.
uh, I know this for a number of reasons. One is because like I've seen just like family members like at pools and things like that.
Hmm.
But also like I've like jokingly like made jokes to my dad, and I could tell like about him being hairy when I was younger. And I could even tell from then, I was like, oh, this is something that's happened to you before. Like, this isn't the first time that this happened. Not like he was like super sensitive about it. He was just like,
He's been
he
there
was like, ha
before.
ha ha ha, let's move on.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And I'm not necessarily saying like there's a correlation between climate and where you're from. I'm just saying that like there's people who are from the Middle East tend to have more hair than like people from Asia. And so there are certain cultures and certain geographic locations where people are hairier than others. And I think in those places there are perhaps more people are more willing to embrace it
Hmm.
than they are in places like the United States where there's a lot of people who don't have it, and so you are more of a you stand out more if you do. Standing out could be a good thing in a lot of ways, but it all kind of comes down to I was gonna say it all kind of comes down to whatever the perception is of whoever is perceiving you and whoever you're around. But I don't even know if that it's that simple. I think it's pretty complicated. I think
I mean, you kind of gave me a really great glimpse. I mean, of course, I knew you're Iranian, and I knew that's from the Middle East and tends to have a little more hair. But when you told me that even for your own culture, that you are on the extreme side, my
yeah,
goodness, I was not expecting that answer.
yeah, it's true.
But it does
Oh
sound
yeah.
like within your family, it sounds that it's probably jokes still go around, but the oohs, the ahs are not as it's not as much as say just any typical American they might come across.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very different. It's like almost expected that you will have hair everywhere, like chest hair, leg hair, whatever, arm hair. Every male in my family, at least, is incredibly hairy, and not just like my family, any Middle Eastern family really, which is kind of funny because it's like a very hot place. You'd think it'd be the other way around.
Insulation, dude. Heat
Yeah,
and
insulation
cool.
works both ways, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess it also gets cold there. I mean, a ton of people from the Middle East, like it's just a common thing. Like
Hmm.
there's no two ways about it. But but yeah, there are like it's still a spectrum. It's still a spectrum, and there's a different degree of ooh and ah where there's like ooh ah, you're like what's a good example? Um, let's say like you have freckles or something.
Hmm.
You have just a few here and there, no big deal. If you have like a ton, here's a society where everybody has freckles, but you have like really, really a ton of them. It's maybe noticeable. People will still comment on it. But if you have like a ton in that society and then you go to a place where they have none, they're like, oh,
You really stand out.
you really, really stand out. It's an extra standout. And so there is a little bit of a difference. That was a terrible analogy. We all get the gist. The analogy wasn't even important. There's the difference between like you stand out in the realm where everyone is aware and is used to this kind of thing. You just are at the extreme
Hmm.
versus the realm where it's like you're at the extreme and everyone else is at zero. Like that's the difference that normally I'll compare myself to my family versus myself to like other people I go to school with and whatnot.
Have your feelings towards chest hair changed over time?
In high school, this one guy told me, again, unprompted. Like I was just walking through the locker room and I was like a freshman and a senior came up to me and he was like, "Oh my God, you're really hairy." And I was like, "Yep." And he was like, "Don't worry. I know everyone hates it now, but older women are going to love it." And I was like, "First of all, who said I needed you to console me? Why did you just come in and insult me like this?" But second of all, thank you. I'm gonna remember that, and one day that's gonna be really great.
And was he right?
He was definitely right. I feel like
Perfect.
as time goes on, like it's so much easier and like appreciated because it is like there's some novelty to it, and like there's something I don't know, like a little people claim to say that they find comforting. Of course, like this is a very selected sample size that I have, so I can't say it's for everyone. But yeah, I'll say it's been easier as I've gotten older.
And then, what advice would you give to someone who is starting to grow chest hair and might be self conscious about it?
Oh my gosh. Well, they're probably like somewhere between the ages of 13 and 18, and I would say like, don't worry. Very few things that you care about now you will care about in 10 years. But instead, I'd say you are special in this way. Like, this is a unique characteristic, and you can embrace it and be happy about it. Or you can just say that I don't care about this one way or the other. But I think those are the two ways you should think about it.
Yeah,
And it's going to be a part of you forever. So it's probably a better choice to just invest some time into becoming more comfortable with who you are and just embracing it than it is trying to pretend like it doesn't exist. So I'd say embrace it.
very nice, man. I like that. Good words. All right. Here, we'll end it with this. We're going to do a rapid reaction round. And what this
Okay.
means is I'm going to say 10 words or phrases, and I just want your initial reaction. The first thing that comes to your head, just
Ooh.
blurt it out to me, okay?
All right. Let's do it.
Beach day,
Ooh. Uh, sun sun protection.
nair,
That one time when we all shaved our legs and arms at Matt's house and his mom helped us, and I can't believe that happened.
God damn, dude, I'm sharing this publicly. You know that, right? All right, moving on. V necks.
Oh, dangerous.
Tom Selleck.
Vision. He's just an absolute vision. He's beautiful.
Okay, you know who he is. You scared me
Yeah.
for a second. My God. Number 5, waxing.
Kelly Clarkson.
Zippers.
Dangerous.
Number 7, Ken dolls.
Ah, smooth. Unusually smooth.
Yeah, I don't know
Scary
if they
smooth.
have a chest haired Ken doll. They should,
They
inclusion.
don't. They don't. Scary smooth.
Number 8, K pop.
Love it. I love K-pop. They could use some chest hair. Just kidding. I like that they don't have it.
Oh,
They
okay.
they shouldn't have it.
No
It's
chest hair
it's
there.
part of them. It's a whole thing.
Okay, by the way, I'll say just real briefly, there is actually a thing about chest hair and K-pop, and
Hmm?
I did not get into it too much, but I kind of saw a little snippet of how it's kind of frowned upon in the K-pop community to have chest hair.
I believe that.
Story for another time that I'm gonna have to look into. All right.
I 100% believe that. I have some. Anyway, we can talk about that later.
Yeah. Number 9, chest hair cancel culture.
What? That's not a thing, is it?
I
I
have
hope
no
it's not
idea.
a
I
thing.
just put the words together. 10,
Okay.
chest hair is
Chest hair is the first thing that came to my mind is comfortable. So comfortable.
perfect. I love it. Well, Yashar, I appreciate your time and for doing this interview and talking to us about chest hair and informing us about chest hair. Any final thoughts that you'd like to put out there, or any plugs, anything you want to share for us?
I think all I want to share is that chest hair or not, we're all just people who are just doing their best. And my friend is calling me right now, so I need to go outside because I didn't have a good way of finishing that anyway. So thank God. But yeah,
Perfect.
thanks, Ryan, for interviewing me.
Well, thank you. And we'll talk soon. Have a good night, man.
All right, you too.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.